Hello, and welcome back to Kester's Forest. Now this week is something of a mix between a review and a modification. Now about 5 or 6 years ago at a car boot sale I picked up a white DS Lite for about £5 and it was in really good condition, and ever since then I've been buying and collecting games for it and really enjoying it. Now you may have seen them around online, but you can actually buy replacement shells. And in one of my previous videos, I did a reshelling of a PS4 controller, and I do like to modify my game consoles and handhelds and make them look a little bit more interesting. So I saw this particular one online. It was about £10 from a company called Zedlabs, and I thought I'd buy it, install it, and then also take a look and see how good it is. Because obviously this isn't an official unit, this is third party, and sometimes these things aren't quite up to scratch. So, with no further ado, let's put this together and take a look. So here we are. This is the DS Lite that I picked up from a car boot sale for £5 a few years ago in classic white all the way over. I did actually own a DS Lite back in the day, but I sold it and regretted it. Here's the shell that I bought, and as you can see it's a lovely red colour with an M for Mario, and everything else on this is red. Here are the bezels at the front plate, the top plate with the speakers, and the bottom where the buttons go. Now when it comes to the buttons themselves, I've decided that I like them but not as much as the originals. They don't feel quite as quality, so I'm going to actually use the originals and create myself a bit of a theme. So let's get this thing taken apart. Remove the rubber tabs to get to the rest of the screws. Once all the screws are removed, carefully prise off the bottom plate. Remove the shoulder buttons. And carefully lift up the motherboard to reveal the buttons underneath. Carefully unscrew the hinge in the top left here, don't lose the screws. Now very gently unplug these two wires, black and white, and pull them clear of the motherboard. And gently undo this ribbon cable for the top screen. Now this wire here is very fiddly because it goes underneath the game card slot and just needs a bit of coaxing to pull out there, and it's going to be a lot of fun to put back. Pull the wires and ribbon cable through the hinge. Now carefully with a spudger separate the bits of plastic from the top screen. They do just pull apart, but you do need to be careful and patient, and they will separate. Now to separate the screen from the top lid, gently twist it like you would an ice cube tray, and the glue will eventually start to come away, and then just gently prise the last piece off by hand and it will come off, just be patient. And then remove the rest of the wires and the speakers. Part 1 done. We got the thing apart. So I had this idea then to use the original white buttons with the red shell and create this nice sort of red-white combo, and actually that's going to work nicely because it means I also don't have to replace the bezels on the screen. Roll up the screen ribbon cable into a tube and push it through the hinge. Making sure you replace the metal ring from the original hinge, push the wires back through the tube you've now made. Gently push the microphone back into place, hopefully it's still sticky. And gently apply pressure to get the top lid to clip back together. Top half done. Now turning our attention to the bottom half, which is the harder of the two, first replace all of the buttons. Now holding the two halves together, pull the ribbon cable through the slit in the hinge on the bottom half and then feed the wires through with it as well. Gently clip the ribbon cable back in. Feed the wires back where they were, including this black one which needs to go underneath the game card slot. Now this ended up being the most difficult thing I've had to do. You need to feed this black wire underneath the game card slot, but it's actually extremely difficult to find your way through. There's a lot of obstructions. So what I ended up having to do was pick it up and turn it on its side and look straight down the gap, pull the wire as straight as I could, and then feed it back through. It's also extremely important to make sure that the white wire is also fed nicely underneath as well through all the different slots. Otherwise, you won't be able to close the board up properly. Now the rest of the buttons were pretty good anyway, but I ended up scrubbing these two L&R buttons with isopropyl alcohol to get rid of some of the yellowing, and they came out pretty well. Now carefully push these back in with the pins and twist the springs round like this, and then clip them into the bits of plastic underneath, where my fingers are blocking the way. Also forgot to actually screw the hinge in, very important. So yeah, just push the hinge in like that, and then screw that in, and yeah, there we go. And now we button it back up. moment of truth. Yay! Success! So what do you think? Well, personally, I think it's really great. I love it. I think the build quality is pretty good. It's not ideal. If I show you in the close-up there, you can see how the lid and the base don't quite meet at the edges. There is a slight distortion there, and the hinge, the lid has a little bit of play in it, which I don't really recall being on the original DS. But the hinge itself is of decent quality, and obviously it's using some of the mechanics from the original DS anyway. This is just the shell. But all in all, yeah, it's a fairly good looking feel to it. I mean, I did say when I was making the video earlier that I was going to keep the original buttons, and actually really love the combo of colours here. It matches the logo perfectly. But I could tell when I took them out of the packet that they weren't quite the same quality as the originals, and I think when it actually comes to playing the games and what you're pressing the button presses, you've got to play this for quite some time, hours at a time maybe, and it's very important that they feel right. So I'm kind of glad I made the decision. However, they were perfectly serviceable buttons that came with it, and in a pinch, if you had a destroyed DS and wanted to repair it, then you really could do a lot worse than pick one of these up. So all in all, yes, I would recommend it, especially for the price. Well, what do you think? Let me know down in the comments if you have any ideas, or you've done any DS mods like this and how you found it. Was it easy? Was it difficult? I found the mod myself not as difficult as I thought it was going to be. It was pretty fiddly, but actually it came out okay. Not done one before and I didn't break it, so not too bad. Well, that's it for this week. Take care, and I will see you next time on Kester's Forest.